Welcome back to the Gabriel Speaks Podcast, everyone. I'm so glad you're here. I've been away for like a week or two. Not really away, but just busy. I've been researching the Trump assassination attempt. It's been a little over a year since the assassination attempt took place. There have been 5 official investigations into the Trump assassination, and there have been a number of investigations that were kind of unofficial, but still revealed a lot of very interesting information. The problem is, none of it tells us anything about Thomas Crooks or how he was able to get himself in that position to get 8 rounds off at President Trump's head. This happened in the middle of Butler, Pennsylvania, God's country. A 20-year-old kid climbed on top of a roof and got off 8 shots at our presidential candidate at the time. How does that happen? This is the United States of America. Our Secret Service is basically the best of the best. Not only from just being badasses in the field, but from strategically analyzing positions and putting their protectees in the best, safest spot possible, no matter the circumstance. So how does a roof with a clear line of sight to the president get missed? I don't know. And I'll tell you, that's why I've spent the last week and a half, 2 weeks, really digging deep into this, because the Secret Service had over 10 hours of hearings to go through. The FBI had multiple hours of video to go through. Different directors, different perspectives. This was a lot to take on. Not to mention, we know virtually nothing about Thomas Crooks. How did that kid with 0 training put himself in that position? And why don't we know more about him? I mean, we know everything about Oswald. People that investigated it could probably tell you what toothpaste he used at night. We knew about the bomber in Florida, like literally within days, everything about him. So how do we not know anything other than what's practically been out there about Thomas Crooks? That's what got me stuck, y'all. That's what got me stuck. And I kept digging and digging and digging. And what I ended up with was a documentary. Now, it's not a huge documentary, but I decided to call it a documentary because what I have here is a 3-part series on what happened, how it happened, what happened afterwards, and the conspiracy theories. Because yes, when a 20-year-old kid can outsmart the Secret Service, we need to ask tough questions. And some of those might include possible conspiracy. This is still an ongoing investigation as far as the FBI is concerned. They put out their statement on their website right afterwards, and it has not been updated since. It's been the same for a year, asking folks for help. Why do you need help? And why has it been over a year? So this is what drove my interest. Some of the local officers said they were promised a Secret Service briefing beforehand, before the event even got started. And they didn't get one. They also expected constant communication with the Secret Service. But again, they were denied that. In fact, you're going to find in these documentaries that the Secret Service were even offered the officers' local radio and turned it down. And in addition to that, the local officers and their snipers had their headquarters, and the Secret Service had to have their own separate headquarters. That makes zero sense. I mean, that makes absolutely zero sense. Shortly before 4 p.m., Crooks flew his drone over the rally for 11 minutes. Not only that, he live streamed it. All this going on while the Secret Service is there. Trump took the stage at 6:05 p.m. and 3 minutes later, local officers saw Crooks on the roof. 3 minutes after that, a local officer rose above the roofline and saw Crooks with the rifle. The gunman turned around and aimed his gun at him. The retreating officer radioed his team that the man had a long gun, and the team radioed the Joint Command Center to get urgent word to Secret Service agents closest to Trump. This was at 6:11 p.m. None of that information ever made it out there. That's direct quote from Secret Service Director Ronald Rowe. How did they not receive that information and immediately act on it? It is a complete failure. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. As always, I truly appreciate it. Share it, do all that good stuff. Do part 1 of this 3-parter, the Trump shooting. And of course, if you have little ones, there may be some scenes you don't want them to see.
How was the shooter allowed on a structure so close to the rally with a clear line of sight to President Trump? And why were there no agents on that roof? How is it possible, as senators learned in a briefing with Secret Service and the FBI last week, that Secret Service agents knew about a threat before President Trump walked on stage, yet they did nothing to prevent him from going on stage?
The drone was recovered in his vehicle. So at the time of the shooting, the drone was in his vehicle with the controller. In addition, our investigation has uncovered...
Do you know what time of day he flew it, and if he flew it on the day of the shot?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
So in addition, it appears that around 3:50 p.m., 4 o'clock in that window, on the day of the shooting, that the shooter was flying the drone around the area.
2 hours before, he's flying a drone in the vicinity of the route.
About 200 yards away, yes.
Okay.
At 5:10 p.m., the shooter is identified as a suspicious person near the AGR building. Does that sound right to what you're understanding of the timeline?
Yes, sir.
Is that normal to have a cell phone communication, or is there usually a body there that can make a decision?
In most security postures and events that I've been part of for these types of events, there is someone actually physically co-located.
Were radios and communication implements offered to Secret Service by the local operators?
They were, yes.
And what was the form of the communication?
The form of communication would have been some type of encrypted law enforcement style radio.
And do you know, did the Secret Service avail themselves of that? Did they obtain those radios?
I believe they were offered, but I do not believe they were taken.
3 snipers from local tactical teams were stationed inside the building the shooter used in his attack. At one point, one of the snipers spotted the gunman. The sniper immediately radioed to the command post. By the time other officers responded, the gunman had scaled the building.
The Secret Service did not give clear guidance or direction to our local law enforcement partners. At approximately 1810 local time, Secret Service informed personnel that local police were addressing an issue at the 3 o'clock of the outer perimeter. At approximately 1810 local time, via phone call, the Secret Service security room calls the counter-sniper response agent reporting an individual on the roof of the AGR building. That vital piece of information was not relayed over the Secret Service radio network. There were communication deficiencies between law enforcement personnel at the site. For example, the Secret Service did not co-locate its security room with local law enforcement.
At 6:08, we know that a local radio call went out that a man was on the roof. Now, my understanding is that the state police were in a separate area with locals, and their job was to communicate any local chatter to the Secret Service. Why was that 6:08 radio call not communicated to Secret Service, or was it by the state police?
So the information I have is that we had a member of the Pennsylvania State Police in our security room, and that's what spurs that phone call to the counter-sniper response agent at 1810. That the personnel that was in the security room passed that information, and that triggers the 1810 phone call.
Fucking this close, bro. Dude, he turned around on me. He's straight up. We noticed the guy crawling, bear crawling up the roof of the building beside us, 50 feet away from us.
Yeah, look, there he is.
Because we have millions and millions of people in our country that shouldn't be here. Dangerous people. Criminals. We have criminals. We have drug dealers. We have people that should not be here.
Right on the roof.
It's much tougher than it happens.
You went right on the roof, big guy.
Up here. Chart's a couple of months old, and if you want to really see something that's said, take a look at what happened.
I hope he's turning this way. Be careful, guys.
Are we good? Shooters down. Are we good to move? We're clear. We're clear.
Hold that in your head. It's bloody.
So we gotta move to the bus. Let me get my shoes.
Okay, my shoes down. My shoes.
Watch out.
Wait.
There's so much of it that seems fake, like the female Secret Service agent that can't holster her weapon. She gets her gun out. She tried to put it in there. She couldn't do it. And she's thinking about putting it back in there. She finally gets it in there. Like the whole thing, it's like, look at her fumbling around. The whole thing is crazy. They're erratic movements. No one knows exactly what to do. It seems fake.
Yeah, that's an audition I could nail.
Yeah, it seems like, okay, now you're panicking. You don't know what the fuck is going on. You really shouldn't be here.
So this is the guy that
Yes, that they sent yes, Beaver County sniper seen and sent the pictures out. This is him.
Okay.
One second. I believe the sniper that seen these and sent the pictures is right inside this building. Michelle, is Greg in there? All right, so if you go to that window that's open and yell for Greg, that's the sniper that sent the original pictures and seen him come from the bike and set the book back down and then lost sight of him.
Okay. I need 5036, 5030, start towards the farm
I fucking told them they need to post the guys fucking over here. I told them that the Secret Service. I told them that fucking Tuesday.
This evening we had what we're calling an assassination attempt against our former president, Donald Trump. It's still an active crime scene. As I mentioned, we have a number of agents on scene. We also are working closely with other federal agencies, our state partners, and our local police partners as well. Again, at this time, we are not prepared to identify who the shooter is. We are close to that identification, and as soon as we are 100% confident in who that individual is, we will share it with the press. With that being said, also, we do not currently have an identified motive, although our investigators are working tirelessly to attempt to identify what that motive was.
We have one shooter tentatively identified, but we're not stopping there. We're following up on a lot of information. It will be some time until we can conclusively say or answer that question, I think. And I am aware that law enforcement had responded to a number of reports of suspicious activity. The specific response to this will be all part of the after action. But yes, law enforcement was responding to check on several suspicious occurrences.
Mr. Bongino, in your opinion, is the Secret Service in a better spot today with Director Rowe in charge?
No, it's worse. And sadly, I'm glad this is all being recorded, because when something else happens, and I hope it doesn't, I pray to my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, that I'm wrong. That you play this and go, look, that guy was crazy. You think this is the last incident, you're out of your mind. Ron Rowe, the acting director, who is the deputy director, the number 2, who is unbelievably, again, got a promotion out of this. A guy was murdered and someone got promoted, which is obscene and disgusting. He is part and parcel of this whole day-to-day ADPO, Assistant Director, Protective Operations, Deputy Director, Director chain that makes management decisions. When they tell you early on, we are not doing this for President Trump, Congressman. We're not doing counter sniper teams. We're not doing CSU. And then they say, well, on that day, we didn't deny assets. You didn't have to. You've been denying them for 4 years. So you're telling me your most threatened protectee had no professional Secret Service overwatch? When I was there, it was definitely not a political enterprise. It just wasn't. I never once, working for President Clinton, Bush, and Obama, had anyone even remotely implicate a political motive for any decision whatsoever. However, from the commentary directed at some of the agents in charge of the Donald Trump detail, which I have heard about, clearly, it appears that for the first time in American history, we have a Secret Service that is making decisions that may not be all political, but may have a political tinge.
If the Secret Service is deciding how they're going to cover somebody based on political leanings, then we're in deeper than I thought. Like, we're in a lot of trouble if that's the case. Now, I don't think Bongino isn't saying like the Secret Service was in on like some conspiracy to kill the president. What he's saying is, ineptitude and ignorance in positions like that. You might as well be trying to kill him, because ignorance can cause someone to die when you're in a position where defending a life is part of the job description. So I think that is very powerful information. Some video, at least I hadn't seen before. We had officers responding to a suspicious person on the roof before this assassination attempt took place. So you had one officer even climbed up onto the roof. The shooter turned around, aimed his rifle at him, and the officer had to drop back down. As you can see from the video, he runs back out to his patrol vehicle. He grabs his sidearm. He loads it up. He describes to his coworker what happened, that there's a kid on the roof, that he's got a rifle, that he aimed it at him. And the next thing we see are folks screaming on the other side of the building at police, trying to get their attention. Hey, there's a kid on the roof. There's a kid on the roof. And then the shots proceed. Now, after 8 shots, you hear in the video there where it shows Trump on the stage, that final last shot was essentially the shot that is said to have killed him. Now, the thing is, if you go into reports, you find out he was actually shot multiple times. And what was even more interesting is that it wasn't a Secret Service sniper who took the initial shot. It was actually a local police sniper that took the first shot. So you see the balls being dropped there. You see how many times it happened. This kid is able to walk around, even deploy a drone beforehand, which we're going to get into in the next video. He's able to walk around this area, scope it out, wait for openings, wait for weaknesses, is so suspicious that he catches the attention of one of the local police officer snipers, who takes his picture, forwards it onto his working group chat, states this guy is acting weird. I don't know what's up with him, but he knows we're here, so on and so forth. But there's no response to that. That information is not forwarded to the Secret Service, and there is no direction given on how to respond to this character. So leave him alone is what they do, where he's able to then proceed to get on the roof. How could you drop the ball like that when you're talking about protecting the most important asset? I don't care if you like him or not, or her or not, whoever happens to be in that position at the time. It is critical that we protect that person no matter what. So you have this group, the Secret Service, elite of the elite, but they are going to work within the confines that they're given. These are tactical operators, not, entrepreneurial go-getters. They're going to do what's ordered. They're not going to take it among themselves to do more, because doing more can actually get you in trouble in those positions. So it's important we understand that leadership is critical, because you're following the directions of leadership even against your own gut feeling in some instances, because that's how the job works. You follow orders. If you don't, people get shot and people die. And someone died on that day. And so it's important that they take this seriously. Now, this next video is going to get into some of this investigation and ask some of these tough questions of these people that were running things. Now, Kimberly Cheadle was grilled for 4.5 hours, would not resign. They even drafted paperwork to petition the president to terminate her if she wouldn't resign. She was very defiant, didn't answer very many questions, wasn't very helpful, considering the fact that we're trying to figure out what happened to President Trump and how he was put in that position. I'll let you decide. Here's part 2 of the documentary, The Aftermath.
When they tell you early on, we are not doing this for President Trump, Congressman. And then they say, well, on that day, we didn't deny assets. You didn't have to. You've been denying them for 4 years. Do not let them fall back on euphemisms and word games where they go, well, that specific day, we didn't say no to any assets.
So did you deny a request for additional resources that had been made by the Trump campaign?
There were no assets denied for that event in Butler on the 13th.
Before July 13th, had the Trump detail requested additional resources?
What I can tell you is that for the event on July 13th, the details that were the assets that were requested for that day were given.
I absolutely believe Donald Trump and an enhanced security posture he should have had would have made him look more presidential, would have facilitated the logistical operation of him traveling. I think they were concerned about optics and making him look like a big shot or whatever, word you want to throw out there. And they were making some of these decisions based purely on grade school level politics, the personnel problems, the logistics problems, the manpower problems, the technology problems. This isn't like the Secret Service $1 million radio system that uses NSA level encryption magically broke down that day. They literally handed them a radio they didn't take.
This tragedy was preventable. The Secret Service's protective mission is to protect U.S. and visiting world leaders and safeguard U.S. elections through protection of candidates and nominees. The Secret Service has a zero-fail mission, but it failed on July 13th and in the days leading up to the rally. A former president and current candidate for president was shot in the head by a sniper within 500 feet of the podium. Today's witness, Secret Service Director Kimberly Cheadle, is here under subpoena to answer questions about how the agency failed President Trump and the victims who attended the rally in Butler, Pennsylvania. It is my firm belief, Director Cheadle, that you should resign. It shouldn't take this much time or preparation, Director Cheadle, to tell the truth and to be transparent with the American people. Reports that the shooter used a drone just a few hours before the rally start time. Is that accurate?
I have heard those same reports, and again, am waiting for the final report.
Do you know, if you can't answer the question, that's your answer. Before July 13th, had the Trump detail requested additional resources?
What I can tell you is that for the event on July 13th, the details that were the assets that were requested for that day were given. What I can say is that the individual was identified as suspicious.
So he was known to be suspicious before former President Trump took the stage.
That is the information I have received.
Why was he allowed to take the stage with a suspicious person having been identified in the crowd?
If the detail had been passed information that there was a threat, the detail would never have brought the former president out onto stage.
So did you deny a request for additional resources that had been made by the Trump campaign?
There were no assets denied for that event in Butler on the 13th.
Would you like to use my 5 minutes to draft your resignation letter, yes or no?
No, thank you.
Was this a colossal failure?
It was a failure.
Yes or no? Was it a colossal failure is the question, yes or no?
I have admitted this is a terrible...
This is a yes or no series of questions. Was this a colossal failure, yes or no?
Yes.
Was this tragedy preventable, yes or no?
Yes.
Has the Secret Service been transparent with this committee?
Yes.
We had to issue a subpoena to get you to show up today. That is not transparent, by the way. Okay, would you say leaking your opening statement to Punchbowl News, Politico's Playbook, and Washington Post several hours before you sent it to this committee as being political, yes or no?
I have no idea how my statement got out.
Well, that's bullshit. Has the Secret Service provided this committee a complete list of all law enforcement personnel that were there that day? Have you done that? Have you provided a list to the Oversight Committee? Yes or no?
I will have to get back to you on that.
That is a no. Have you provided all audio and video recordings in your possession to this committee, as we asked on July 15th, yes or no?
I would have to get back to you.
That is a no. You're full of shit today. You're just being completely dishonest.
Mr. Chairman,
have you provided all memorandums within the Secret Service?
I would have to get back to you on
that. That is a no. You are being dishonest or lying. You're being dishonest here with this committee. These are important questions that the American people want answers to, and you're just dodging. Have you provided us all communications from the Secret Service related to that day and that rally? Have you provided this committee? We've asked for this information on July 15th. Have you provided any of this information that this committee has asked of the Secret Service? Any of it?
I'll have to get back to you.
We haven't gotten a single document or piece of information or data from you or your agency in related to the rally that we have asked you for. What time did law enforcement become aware that there was an individual on the roof with a clear line of sight to President Trump?
I am still verifying timelines.
Of course, 9 days in, you have no answers. How many minutes went by between the time law enforcement saw and took photos of Crooks and the shooting? How many minutes?
I am still verifying
57 minutes.
So there were a number of local agents from the local office, as well as agents from the former Trump detail that were involved in that advanced process.
Do we have a number?
I do have a number. I'm not going to release that number in this setting.
You're not making this easy for us.
A report in 60 days won't do it for us because we have a responsibility. Members of Congress have a responsibility to take action now if there's anything we can do to prevent this. What is informing your operational decisions right now that you've invoked?
We looked at the protectees that we have here in the Washington, D.C. area and our protective sites, and we did make some adjustments.
So you've made the same kinds of common sense judgments and intuitive recommendations that members of the public and members of Congress are asking about right now.
Yes.
Is it true that at 5:45 p.m., approximately 18 minutes before President Trump took the stage, the Beaver County Emergency Services Unit noticed the shooter on the roof and photographed him? Is that a fact or not?
That is the information that I have from the FBI's report, yes.
Is it suspicious or threatening if an individual is seen around the perimeter with a rangefinder? Is that just suspicious?
That could be termed as suspicious.
If that same individual with the rangefinder is found on a rooftop, is that still just suspicious, or is that considered threatening?
That could be termed still as suspicious.
Ms. Cheadle, the shooter was set up on the roof of the AGR International building, as we know. Was the roof identified as a potential vulnerability days before the rally?
To my knowledge, yes, it was.
Were agents or officers inside the building? If so, what floor were they on?
We had local police officers inside the building.
The roof looks like it's a tin roof. How did no one inside that building hear someone moving on top of a metal roof?
I don't have the details of all of the interviews that have been conducted yet.
Why did Secret Service fail to block the line of sight from that roof?
I think that the Secret Service put together a plan where they were counting that roof in as part of their overwatch.
Okay, that is fucking ridiculous. What are you talking about? He had a clear line of sight to the President of the United States, the person you're supposed to protect. There's a roof over there. Clear line of sight. And that's your explanation for why it was open. I don't even understand that explanation.
Ms. Cheadle, why was President Trump allowed on stage 10 minutes after the Secret Service spotted a suspicious individual? That seems to me to be the worst thing of all. Of all the breakdown and all this communication, all the BS you've been feeding us here today or not feeding us, that seems to be the question.
So as I've stated before, there are a number of events where suspicious people may be identified. That doesn't necessarily...
Ma'am, I submit to you, you got a guy who's going to be the next president of the United States. He's on stage. I've been to these events. We've all been to these events. A car backfires, and there's a 15-minute dadgum wait. That's not acceptable. You found explosives in the shooter's possession. Is that correct?
The FBI found explosives.
Do we know who directed this young man how to make those explosives?
I believe that the FBI is still looking into that on their investigation.
You
answered more questions with an ABC reporter than you have with members of Congress. We have a lot more questions. The American people are demanding that we get answers to those questions, and that's what the purpose of this hearing is today. So I'm sure a lot of the questions that have already been asked are going to be asked again, and hopefully we can get some answers to those questions. I strongly implore you to answer those questions. You're here with a subpoena, and we expect you to answer the questions.
Was it true that Secret Service was present at the Butler ESU briefing?
There was a briefing between the counter sniper teams that were working
Secret
on the
Service
ground.
present?
Yes, to my knowledge.
Okay, I want to read you a report from people that seem to be throwing you under the bus and stated that they were in attendance and that Secret Service was not in attendance at the security briefing, according to individuals with knowledge, to also include that the AGR building where the shooter Thomas Matthew Crooks was located was actually not a part of their security perimeter for that. So there was not Secret Service present.
Again, I think we're conflating the difference between the term threat and suspicious.
But you guys did have knowledge at 5:59 p.m. according to those group chats, did you not?
Of a suspicious individual.
Okay. In my opinion, according to some of the testimony today, I feel that you have perjured yourself in some instances. And so I'm going to ask for a full review of the transcripts by staff. And if you find that to be the case, I do ask that you bring perjury charges against the director. You have been up here basically stonewalling our ability to get the answers to the American people. And what I will also say is that every single member of Congress does not feel safe with you in charge. You have heard that. And I think that we are all sitting ducks with you in directing the Secret Service currently. But more importantly, it sends a message to our adversaries that we are not protected. And we are one of the strongest countries in the world. So you have essentially made us a less safe country because of it.
Oh, that is damning. Damning. Scorching feedback from Representative Luna telling the Secret Service Director, Kimberly Cheadle, that she made the country weaker.
For your resignation, I've introduced a resolution here into this body that hopefully will get a vote this week calling on the president to fire you, ma'am. You have not done your job. You have put two black eyes on your agency, and you need to go.
The director of the Secret Service has resigned following the assassination attempt on former President Donald Trump. Kimberly Cheadle announced her resignation in an email to her employees earlier this morning. The decision comes after yesterday's hearing on the security failures leading up to the shooting at a rally in Pennsylvania on July 13th. Mr. Trump and two spectators were wounded while a third man in the crowd was killed. Cheadle faces bipartisan calls to resign as she herself called the assassination attempt the, quote, most significant operational failure in decades. The current deputy director of the Secret Service, Ron Rowe, is now appointed as acting director.
The Secret Service is going to rely on this and what they're trying to do now. And you're accurate in your analysis about how this cover-up is starting to work. Ron Rowe, the acting director, who is the deputy director, the number two, who is unbelievably, again, got a promotion out of this. A guy was murdered and someone got promoted, which is obscene and disgusting. He is part and parcel of this whole day-to-day ADPO, Assistant Director, Protective Operations, Deputy Director, Director chain that makes management decisions.
July 13th was a failure of the Secret Service to adequately secure the Butler Farm Show site and protect President-elect Trump. That abject failure underscored critical gaps in Secret Service operations, and I recognize that we did not meet the expectations of the American public, Congress, and our protectees. I personally carry the weight of knowing that we almost lost a protectee, and our failure cost a father and husband his life.
In the months leading up to July 13th, who was the director of the Secret Service?
Kimberly Cheadle.
Okay. Other than former Director Cheadle, who was the most senior Secret Service agent?
In the agency? Mm-hmm. That would be me. I was the deputy director.
Were you made aware of highly credible intelligence that a serious and grave threat to President Trump's life from an adversarial nation state? There was a very serious threat.
In this open setting, Congressman, I can't discuss what I was or was not aware of.
Well, the former Director Cheadle said she was aware. So I would imagine
by extension, you were aware?
You
said in open session that
I would point to Director Cheadle's.
All right, so you were aware. So we have a unique circumstance here because we had a former president of the United States who is the leading candidate at that time to be the next president of the United States, and he will be now that we know. And he was being threatened by a foreign nation state because of actions he took while he was president of the United States. Very unique circumstances. Did President Trump, was he provided a security detail akin to what a sitting president would receive?
At that time, he was not.
He was not. Did the president's detail request a CSU, to your knowledge?
I'm not aware of a request for CSU.
Now, was the threat from the nefarious nation state disseminated to agents in the field and in the protective details?
I'm just pausing, Congressman, because I'm trying to walk a tightrope here in an open setting. What I can tell you is that the Secret Service provided assets on that day for a particular.
What I can tell you, sir, is that the folks that are whistleblowing and informing some members of Congress say that they were not aware of this threat. And that's what I'm getting at with being proactive and showing leadership is we know for a fact that there was no CSU in Butler. Was there a full CAT team there?
There was not.
No. A full CAT team, 6 members, and there were 2 there. So you knew of the threat. You didn't disseminate to the field.
Okay, they keep mentioning this, so I'm going to chime in. So a CAT team, that's short for a counter assault team. That's a tactical group in the Secret Service. CSU typically stands for a counter sniper team within the Secret Service, and obviously you can tell what that means just by the term.
And the protective details, President Trump didn't have a protection that was akin to a sitting president. He didn't have the CSU. He had only the third of the CAT team. So that's that kind of ineptitude and inaction and complacency and the neglect that really, quite frankly, is as telling as it is chilling. And had it not been for a very blessed, fortuitous and a happenstance of a perfectly timed turn of a head, President Trump would have lost his life that day. Did you go the next day to Butler, Pennsylvania on the 14th of July?
I did not.
Okay. Did you go that week?
I did not.
Okay. And when did you finally visit the site?
I visited about a day after I was appointed.
So July 24th? Cheadle came in July 22nd. She got skewered and roasted by the Democrats and Republicans on the Oversight Committee, of which I sit on. She resigned the next day, and then only that day did you go.
I'll take your word for it, Congressman.
Why'd you wait 9 days? 11 days?
Why did I wait 9 days?
Yeah. Director of the FBI went to the site. Why didn't you go?
Congressman, I think I was appointed July 23rd, and I was there on the 24th or 25th.
But you were the second most senior member of the Secret Service. You could have gone.
And I was managing from here the crisis. We actually
so you didn't go.
dispatched.
Got it. Did you call the, you were managing the crisis, you just said. Did you call the detail that night on July 13th that was protecting President Trump?
On that night, they were operational, sir.
You did not. Okay. Did you call him the next day?
No, I did not.
Okay. When did you finally talk to him?
I spoke to them when they arrived in Milwaukee.
So 4 days later, July 17th, does that sound about right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Do you recognize this photo?
Yes, sir, I do.
Okay. Was that the remembrance of September 11th?
It was.
Was it in New York?
It was at Ground Zero.
Okay. Who is usually at an event like this closest to the President of the United States, security-wise?
The SAC of the detail.
Special agent in charge of the detail. Were you the special agent in charge of the detail that day?
Actually, let me address this. Could you please, staff, leave that? Oh, no, leave that one up with the circle around me. Thank you. So actually, Congressman, what you're not seeing is the SAC of the detail out of the picture's view. And that is the day where we remember the more than 3,000 people that have died on 9/11. I actually responded to Ground Zero. I was there going through the ashes of the World Trade Center. I was there at Freshkills.
I'm not asking you that. I'm asking you,
Congressman.
were you the special agent in charge?
To show respect
You were not.
for a Secret Service
that's a bunch of
member
horse hockey.
that died on 9/11.
Oh, that you're trying to be.
Do not invoke 9/11 for political purposes.
Oh, I'm not. I'm invoking this.
You are, sir.
Gentlemen,
And you are out of line.
I would like to ask him a question.
Please.
You are
Order.
out of line, Congressman.
Don't
Way
try
out
to
of
bully
line.
me. I am an elected member of Congress, and I'm asking you a serious question, and you are
I am
playing
a public.
politics.
Okay, so what the congressman's saying here is he's implying that Director Rowe was more concerned with being in that photo op with President Biden and Schumer and Harris and all them than he was with the security of President Biden, because the special agent in charge should be the agent closest to Biden at all times. So the fact that he's not and Mr. Rowe is a not following, it's a breach in protocol. It's not following protocol. So that's what the congressman is pointing out. But obviously he's touched a nerve here with Mr. Rowe, who believes he's politicizing 9/11 because he's pointing this out.
Servant who has served this nation, and
You
spent
won't answer
time
the question.
on our day, on our country's darkest day.
Committee will come
Do not
to order.
politicize it.
Committee will come to order. I'm asking you serious questions for the American people, and they're very simple. They're not trick questions. Were you the special agent in charge that
No,
day?
I wasn't. I was there
No,
representing the
Mr. Chairman,
United
I'm
States
just
Secret
asking you yes or
Service,
no.
sir.
Mr. Fallon, your
and
time's
did not
expired.
affect protective
You know
operations.
why you were
time's
there?
expired.
Because you wanted to be visible, because you were auditioning for this
I was
job.
there to
that
pay
you're not gonna
respect for a
get
fallen
come
member of
January
this
20th.
agency.
You endangered
You are
President
out of
Biden's
line,
life,
Congressman.
Vice President
You are out of
Harris's
line.
life, because you put those agents out of position.
Mr.
Did you have a
Chairman.
radio with
Mr.
you?
Fallon,
Did
your
you wear
time
a
has
vest? Did you have a
expired.
weapon?
Mr.
No.
I did, sir, and you are out of line.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
please.
All right. And we are back
You're
in
a
order
bully.
now. We are back in order now.
Thank you.
You know, look, the reason emotions are high is because we almost did have a former president, and now the president-elect literally almost killed live on television. Agencies need to change with the times. Things are different now. And when you guys don't put out information, that vacuum gets filled with conspiracy theories. We talk about restoring faith in the institutions. Yes, you know, government needs to work and people need to see that they're competent. But at the same time, we're not going to be able to restore that faith if the agencies aren't communicating with the public and instead are getting conspiracy theories online because no one else is giving them information.
No one else is giving them information. So apparently, if you come to a podcast like the Gabriel Speaks podcast, you're just getting conspiracy theory information. Now, I don't consider myself a conspiracy theorist. I consider myself more of a conspiracy realist. We've seen time and time again over the decades how there have been groups of certain intelligence agencies that have acted out of line against our own citizenry. I mean, I don't even have to mention the first. I guarantee you, the first thing that came to your mind right there was MK Ultra, right? Because we know this is a proven program where we were able to find what little track record they left behind, because they did manage to burn quite a bit of that evidence, quite a bit of that footprint has been erased, but we were able to get a hold of some of it, and therefore we're able to get certain gentlemen to testify from the CIA and learned all about the MK Ultra program. And so we know from that program that the government or groups within the government are okay with brainwashing the citizenry. That's okay to do in certain situations. So that's concerning. I mean, I don't want to be manipulated in that way. And we know that through all kinds of through all kinds of intermediaries, we can be influenced. We've got social media, we've got the news, we've got journalism. So, it's in what we read, it's in what we see. It's everywhere. It's all around us. So we are constantly bombarded with messages. And can those messages be manipulated in a way to make us act certain ways or think a certain way about a topic? Most psychologists will tell you yes. Yes, they absolutely can. And in fact, doctors that were involved with the MKUltra experiments will tell you yes, they can as well. The thing is, MKUltra was in the 70s and the 60s. It's the year 2025. So we've had, over 60 years of development and technology. And so imagine what can be done now to influence how you think, what you believe, how you feel. Is this what happened to Thomas Crooks? By all accounts, this kid was a normal kid, just got his associate's degree, was applying to get a master's degree in engineering. Normal, bright young kid, scored very high on his SAT scores, on a bunch of his testing scores are out there online. You can take a look at it, the official scores. So bright young guy. And then all of a sudden, briefly before the shooting, starts going with encrypted messaging and encrypted browsing. And we have data on phones that were at Crooks' house and Crooks' phone himself and things it was doing, he was doing. Things that these phones at his house were doing, where they were going is quite interesting. So yes, that leaves when you're not going to tell us what happened. We're going to try to figure it out. And you can call that conspiracy. But a lot of stuff is conspiracy until it proves as fact, right? i.e. COVID and where it came from. See a bunch of other examples. So part 3 of this documentary is going to get into the conspiracy.
94 days after nearly pulling off an assassination, why do we still know so little about the shooter behind the plot to kill Trump? We know Thomas Matthew Crooks planned this in advance through internet searches. We know that he scouted the area ahead of Trump's rally. He flew a drone, went to the gun range to practice. It was all very calculated. And we know that he worked at a local nursing home kitchen and that some say he was bullied in school. But beyond that, we hardly know anything. He left behind very little social media activity. The FBI director said he barely had any contacts in his phone. I think it was only a couple, he said. And any other details we've been able to gather have come from former classmates who just kind of knew him just a little bit. So how is it that this 20-year-old came within millimeters of taking a former president's life and we still don't really know anything about him or why exactly he did this? No manifesto, no explanation.
I think the FBI is very, very familiar with who this individual is, and it is my understanding that they have completed a profile and a full sketch. I think what the public doesn't realize is that this investigation has been designated as a national security investigation that kind of puts a little bit of a different spin on it.
I get that, but I'm just thinking about the other attempted assassination. I can't believe that I'm even saying that. The one that happened near where you are in Florida, in West Palm Beach. We pretty quickly learned more about that man. I mean, there was even like pages released of his manifesto. But yet
1 year ago this Sunday, a recent community college graduate went to a Trump campaign rally in Butler, Pennsylvania, and came within inches of assassinating the president. We still know very little about Thomas Crooks and his motive. Now, a CBS News investigation shows Crooks fell apart, invisible to many people in his life.
Thomas Crooks was just 20 years old with no history of political radicalization or violence.
Thomas Crooks,
an engineering student who impressed his teachers with big plans for his future, according to his former professor, Patricia Thompson.
I thought he was a star student. He had his head on straight and he was on a path for success.
But in the months before the incident, he was seemingly leading two lives. CBS News uncovered emails showing last year Crooks was applying to transfer to a 4-year engineering program while at the same time designing a bomb. 6 months before the shooting, he was increasingly using encrypted email and internet, invisible online even to his friends.
Freshman year, 2019.
Is that more how you remember him?
Yeah.
Tristan Radcliffe, who was also interviewed by investigators, says images of Crooks from that day in July show a physical transformation.
When I would see him from like elementary school to when I last seen him at college, he would always have like tight denim jeans, glasses, short hair, and then just to see him like that, like
the whole thing's nuts. The whole thing stinks of either incompetence or a design or we're in the Matrix. This is a fucking fake movie. To see everything happen the way it is, to see that they knew this guy was on the roof, to hear that guy had pointed his rifle before that at a cop. So the cop engaged him. He pointed the rifle and the cop ran away. The guy climbed the roof with a ladder. You can see the ladder. The whole thing is bananas. Yeah, He's 20 years old. And then you find out he was in a BlackRock commercial.
My name is Brian Delalo. I teach in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Financial well-being to me is knowing that I can be free to do the things that I love to do. I hope when I retire someday, they say, that guy made this place a special. School and gave as much as he could to help the community.
You're like, is this the Black Mirror? Like, tell me what's going on. Is this real? They're saying he's getting bullied in high school, but it doesn't seem like he's being bullied. It seems like everyone's having fun because he's talking about how he has a 10-inch penis and they're just filming each other. It looks like they're having fun.
And 6'4". I go to Stanford University. I have a 10-inch penis.
Funny. It was like he's trying to be funny, Yeah, I got a 10-inch penis. I mean, he wasn't saying like I definitely have a 10-inch dick. It was like it didn't seem like he was being bullied. I mean, obviously I saw one clip. Who knows what the fuck the full context of it is, but
right.
20 years old, and he's got this idea, and he pulls it off. He actually gets a shot off and nicks him, and then they kill him. Like, you're seeing this 20-year-old kid, his life is over. Like, somehow or another, he talked himself into trying to assassinate the president as a lone gunman in Pennsylvania.
Selena Zito, do you want to talk about the investigation since the shooting?
So it was slow walked. There was a void in intellectual curiosity about Thomas Matthew Crooks. And also, I did as best as I could. But this is a young man who seemingly he was quiet, however, seemingly had a normal life leading up until November of 2023. And that's when something changed, snapped, whatever way you want to reference it, with this young man. And you can find through public records that he went from, public email through school to encrypted email. He went from using Google to using encrypted dark websites. His father in the interviews said something had changed, that he started dancing and talking when no one was there. For whatever reason, the family is not talking. That was never, it appears that was never explored.
Matthew, why would your son want to kill the president?
Back off.
No comment.
No comment.
Were there any warning signs, Matthew?
How's Mary holding up?
No comment.
We'll release a statement when our legal counsel advises us to do so.
So this is. He tried out for the rifle team from just talking with some of my friends who we had mutual relations with Tom. He didn't make it onto the rifle team. From what I've heard, he was just not a good shot.
Not a good shot.
Yeah, not a good shot, and just not following. Didn't really seem like he was a safe fit, according to the director of the rifle team.
Well, we did speak to a spokesman from the Oversight Project at the Heritage Foundation today, immediately after this came out. What they are doing is essentially whether FBI is doing it or not, they're not telling us that they're actually involved in this. This is not some sort of secret technology. It's nothing new. We've learned a lot about this even in the January 6th trials, about how they're able to track people's cell phones. But see, this is not just law enforcement or government agencies that do this. This is Google. This is, when you walk into a boot store in Nashville, they're going to track you, and then you start getting these ads. It's called ad ID. Every single one of our phones, our cell phones, have essentially what is the same and the equivalency to your social security number. And so once they identify that phone, then they can pretty much track that phone wherever it goes. So here is the gist of what Oversight has discovered through their own tracking, is they were able to ping and identify about 9 different phones at the home of the shooter. The kid, the 20-year-old Crooks. And so they were able to identify which of those phones were then going to his place of business where he works at the nursing home. So after they identify that and make sure that they've got the right ID there for that, now they can track it everywhere else it goes. Well, they followed it to the fairgrounds there, Butler County, where the rally was with Trump, where Trump was shot, and unfortunately other injuries and deaths as well. So what they discovered was that this kid was basically doing recon at that site on July 4th and July 8th. So they were able to track him. But they also learned, and this is very interesting, so this tells us either how smart this kid is or something else, is that he turned his phone off after the 12th, or at least shut down all of the apps on his phone so he couldn't be tracked on the day itself.
Interesting.
But it gets better than that.
Oh, keep going.
Well, it does, because in the process of looking at all of these phones that visited his home and visited the nursing home where he worked, they found a phone that actually pinged 7 or 8 times in D.C. at a building called a Gallery Place, which has a very large footprint of FBI offices and where source meetings and interviews regularly take place in the coffee shop of that particular building.
That this kid, someone from outside the FBI's office in D.C. had been visiting. They tracked they have phone, they have ad.
Oh, right.
So they can
they can ping your phone off of that triangulate on the.
So there was a phone
towers,
that was going from outside of D.C. to this kid multiple times. So what's going on? This kid's training for quite a while, for over a year. It seems like he was involved in shooting training and preparing for. It's like he was being.
He went
groomed.
there at least 40 times. They said.
I don't know how many times. It was quite a few.
It was quite a few.
Yeah, but the whole thing is very strange. It's like how is this not like a deep investigation that's on the front page of every newspaper where people are trying to figure out
outrage from
was this a government conspiracy to kill the presidential candidate?
Yeah.
What happened with this kid? Did they do an autopsy? Did they find there's any chemicals in this kid's body? We don't know. We haven't heard a fucking peep. We have not heard a single press conference. Well, there was so little reporting on how it happened, how it could have happened, who the shooter was. They get to the kid's house and it's completely scrubbed. He doesn't have any silverware in his home. Someone was there, and you know
his phone. It takes them a week and a half even to open it.
Oh, we can't get into his phone.
Yeah. Ooh.
I guarantee there was some sort of psychotropic medicine involved. There's something involved.
Those explosive devices, I think, which were in the car.
Yeah.
What were they for?
Right. And how did he learn how to do that? Where do you get those when you're 20 years old?
What were they for?
Right. What were they for?
He had to have an intent.
Right.
For that.
Right.
Certainly wasn't to get away. Otherwise, he would have had him on him.
Right. Do you think he thought he was going to survive? I mean, was it a suicide run for this kid? That's why I want to know what drugs was he on. We don't have any toxicology report on this kid.
Right.
which is crazy.
Yeah.
Like, you have to, is there something that was given to this kid that made him do something that insane? Because there are things that they can give you that will completely distort your understanding of reality, and which is why they gave the Nazis meth. Also, the idea that we know all the psychotropic drugs that the government is experimenting on, that's ridiculous too. Well, there's just a lot of people that aren't even aware of all the things that we're talking about. There's a lot of people out there that think, oh, Lee Harvey Oswald acted alone.
What we found shocked us. Even though Thomas Crooks killed one rally-goer, Corey Comparator, and seriously injured 2 others while grazing Trump's right ear, there's a lot of sympathy for him in his hometown of Bethel Park. Several people told us they don't think Crooks acted alone and that he might have been a patsy. Some also accused Biden's FBI of suppressing some information, like why Crooks's body was cremated so quickly and what his overseas encrypted accounts revealed. Private investigator Doug Hagmans had a team of 7 working on this mystery after being hired by a secret client shortly after the event. He says his team used a technique called geofencing. Hagman told me they located 8 or 9 devices, probably cell phones, that belonged to other people, but were pinpointed to being with Crooks at his home, at his old high school, at his gun club, and even at the rally. Hagman said he doesn't believe Crooks acted alone and that he was part of a criminal network that's still out there and still wants to kill President Trump.
Yeah, I'm going to say that I think there is sufficient evidence to support the conclusion that there were others in assisting Thomas Matthew Crooks based on the presence of electronic devices at his home as well as at the Butler Fairgrounds.
Thomas's parents still live in the very small ranch home in Bethel Park, but have never given interviews.
I'm standing right in front of the Crooks home where Thomas Crooks grew up. His parents, Matthew and Mary, are inside now. They were inside yesterday. Apparently, they never come out of their house except at 3 a.m. to go get the groceries. Behind me is the apartment building where Katie Crooks, Thomas Crooks' only sibling, lives. She's about 23 years old. She works as a janitor nearby. And when we went to see if we could talk to her, we were met by 2 men in her apartment building complex that came to the door and told us in no uncertain terms that we had to go. They were polite, but they said, and I quote, "This story is dead, and you need to know that."
We are right now rolling up to the Clairton gun range. This is a gun club and a shooting range about half an hour from Thomas Crooks' house. And he went once in May, 2 months before the attempted assassination of President Trump. And the day after, oddly enough, there were officers, agents from the Department of Homeland Security that were here shooting as well.
When your predecessor sat right there in that seat a couple of years, last year in a committee hearing, I asked him a very detailed question about Matthew Thomas Crooks, the shooter responsible for the assassination attempt on President Trump's life. I did get an answer from Chris Wray that day, and I submitted written questions to the FBI and into the record of this committee, and I want to resubmit those questions today because I think we are still awaiting answers to those questions. So, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to submit some for the record, please. I'd like to ask you, sir, and the FBI, under your leadership, would you please respond to these questions, and can you commit to doing that?
As soon as the trial's over.
Thank you very much.
That is the perfect way to end this, because that was a few days ago. That was September 17th. And it was a follow-up because the senator, Wes Hunt, had asked the previous FBI director some questions about Thomas Crooks. And the FBI director said, well, we have to finish our investigation. We're still investigating it. Can we put a pin in those questions? Senator says, okay. So a couple days ago, he asks Mr. Patel, the current director, okay, can you commit to answering these questions now? And Kash Patel says, sure, after the trial. What trial, dude? Thomas Crooks is dead. There's no trial. There's clearly there's no investigation either, or not one that you're taking very seriously. I think as far as the lawmakers are concerned, hey, Thomas Crooks shot at the president, and Thomas Crooks is dead now. So case closed. Not much more to say about that. I disagree. You don't have this many investigations going on about the same issue unless there's concern. If you look at this timeline, we've got 5 official groups and then multiple kind of spin-off groups from Congress, the House and the Senate, both the House and the Senate, who are also investigating this. Now, if it's driving you crazy, if you want to know what the questions Senator Huff had, they're still there. They're still pinned on his Instagram account, which were, 1, can we get the names of the encrypted apps that he used, because they keep saying he was using encrypted apps? 2, has the FBI secured the messages in those encrypted apps? 3, will the FBI provide the House Judiciary Committee with a copy of the messages found in those encrypted apps? And 4, how many shots in total were fired at President Trump, and how many shots were fired in total? He says the American people deserve transparency. And I agree. The main thing is the FBI doesn't seem to care much. The FBI we've got nothing new on Crooks. How did this young man get to this rally a couple hours early, deploy a drone while Secret Service was there? I mean, this dude had a drone within reach, basically, of the Secret Service. He's flying it around. He live streamed the drone footage, the aerial drone footage. President Trump is going to a rally. You've got a 20-year-old kid live streaming aerial drone footage of where he is, of the exact location. You can see the entire layout of the security. Where did this kid learn this stuff? He's all of a sudden using encrypted apps. He's all of a sudden using encrypted emails. At least that's what we're told. And so he's like communicating with someone. And when we think MK Ultra, right, and brainwashing, we think like the traditional, hypnosis and kidnapping, heavy drugs. Joe Rogan refers to drugs a couple of times. But you have to consider that there's probably a very sophisticated way at this point to manipulate someone. And I think you can, you could probably do it over time. You could probably do it immediately. I mean, they probably, the folks that research this probably have a playbook for what they do. Who would want candidate Trump at that time dead? Well, I mean, there are so many folks, and please comment below if you have some theories. I have my own. I think that I'll hear some familiar names down in the comments. Now, we saw Thomas Crooks in a BlackRock commercial. And who is BlackRock? Well, BlackRock is really it's a publicly traded company. So there are multiple organizations involved. And a lot of these organizations have a lot of pull. They have a lot of money. And they've been playing the political game for quite a while. And so I started doing some deep diving. And what you find is that most corporations, they do donate, especially now after the, Supreme Court ruling that happened a little while ago. So most of these corporations, they donate because they have their own interests, which is make more money, their businesses. So they're going to vote and they're going to push and promote the candidate they think is going to put their business in the best position. That doesn't necessarily mean the country in the best position. It just means their business in the best position. When you really dig into it and start looking at the trends over time, you find that it usually leans about 55 to 60% these corporations donate to Republicans, and 45 to 50 40 to 50 they're donating to Democrats. And they do this strategically depending on where they are, what they need, so on and so forth. I'm sure you can put that together. Now, what's interesting is in this case, the weight of money given to the Biden-Harris campaign far outweighed what was given to the Trump campaign. And so I did a little more digging, and you can find that if you look into these groups, you've got multiple. You've got the Vanguard group, okay? Biden-Harris, they got a total of $98,000, right? Like almost $100,000 versus Trump, $7,600. The State Street Corp, Harris, $54,000. Trump, almost $6,000. Morgan Stanley, Harris, $394,493 versus Trump at $123,763. Bank of America, Harris, $609,000. Trump, $180,000. Capital Group, we're talking Capital Research, Capital World. Harris, $156,689. Trump was not even listed. Charles Schwab, their PAC was shut down. Geo Capital, they can't contribute. And Temasek and Norges Bank also prohibited by U.S. law from contributing. You can see here that the money given to Biden-Harris versus Trump, it's off of the charts, the difference. They're giving Biden, 5, 10, sometimes 20 times the amount that they're giving Trump. And it wouldn't be that crazy, except that usually at least 50% or 40% would go to that other candidate so as not to look so biased. So what are you saying here, Gabe? Are you saying that BlackRock tried to have Trump killed? I don't know. But I would hope that it's a lead that our FBI, that our investigators are looking into. I mean, if random podcast guy can put this together, I would hope there's some investigators that have put this together and are way, way ahead of me. The concern is that we haven't heard anything. So we have all these different bodies investigating the incident, and we have all these reports on the failures. Why did this happen? How could this have happened? What can we do differently in the future to make sure this doesn't happen? But we've got nothing. I mean, next to nothing on Thomas Crooks? Who keeps an apartment with no silverware? I mean, I know that sounds anecdotal, but it's really strange. And these contacts, these multiple contacts with phones that have been linked to federal FBI offices before the incident. So was the FBI investigating Thomas Crooks before this happened, or was somebody in the FBI communicating with Thomas Crooks, working with Thomas Crooks? Was it maybe somebody that has access to these federal buildings, but not necessarily the FBI, that is maybe was trying to influence Crooks or helping Crooks? I mean, either way, we're talking about an operation that, like, Navy SEALs would be concerned about this operation. You want me to go in and fly a drone up to scope out the defensive positions so that I can then climb on top of a building, which should not have a clear line of sight, but does have a clear line of sight to President Trump, and take my shots. And I know I'm going to die. Like, there's no way you think you're going to get away. He has explosives in his car. Was that going to be more destruction he wanted to cause, or was that part of a getaway? Was that was that going to be a suicide? I mean, these are the questions that you would think we would have answered, or we would at least have some indication on what the answers are over a year past the incident. We've got nothing. We've got the FBI website showing the same update it showed 2 days after the incident, which is essentially the FBI asking for more information. We should be outraged over this, but we are not. The president should be outraged over this, but he is not. What does that mean? Does that mean that it just was indeed this 20-year-old kid who just, in what he was trying to accomplish, just got extremely lucky? The broken clock was right twice a day kind of a situation? What happened to where he was able to get in that situation? And I think that's why you hear it almost break Rogan's brain, because it seems like either he had to have had some help, or we're like in the Matrix, because there's no way this 20-year-old kid should have been able to do this. So this is where I have been the last week and a half, 2 weeks, is going down this rabbit hole. I hope you appreciated the documentary. I worked very hard on it, sat through several hours of testimony, was very shocked at a lot of it. I was very shocked that we had a member of Congress tell the director of the Secret Service they were full of shit on the floor. It's nuts. And the exchange between, Roe and the senator from Texas, Connolly, that exchange over, were you trying to seek fame and the limelight and this actual position as a director? I mean, it was well known he wanted this job. So this actually worked out in his favor. So there's just so many moving parts and so many interested parties. Of course, this is going to become a part of the conspiracy theory realm, because until we're provided any answers, what are we supposed to think? And the longer we go without being provided those answers, the stranger and stranger and more convoluted it all begins to look. What do I think happened that day after watching all of this testimony, after researching all of these companies, looking at all of this phone tracking data? What I think is that I wish the FBI was actually doing a real investigation, because there are clearly strange things about this Thomas Crooks character and about why he was able to do what he did. I know you've heard me say it over and over, but that's because it's so shocking. And it's going to happen again. If we don't figure this out, it's going to happen again. I guarantee it. That's why Bongino was so strong in his conviction, because if we don't really investigate this and really figure out what happened, it's going to happen again. And if you think those groups that they were trying, next time it won't be a 20-year-old kid. Next time it will be someone that knows what they're doing and has the training and the aptitude to complete the task. Let's be clear. Thomas Crooks was intelligent, and that's probably why he was able to sit around for an hour, walk around, assess the security, and get on top of that building at the exact right moment. But that means he had to know he wasn't going to make it out of there. We've got no manifesto. We've got no motivation. We've got literally nothing as far as what motivated him to do this. If you want to say mental illness and he just wanted to kill anybody that was famous, okay. Where's our evidence of that? Where's our proof of that? Where's the experts that believe this on the record? I would love to see that. And then you have the FBI director saying, I'll get back to you as soon as the trial is over. There's no trial, dude. It's just, what is going on with this case? Friends, please, if you have any thoughts on what may have happened that day, please leave it down in the comments, because I've got many, but I'm still so unsure. My thought is, where I'm at right now, he definitely had help. I think that Thomas Crooks was a kid that was easily influenced. And I think because of that, someone or some group of people chose him, built him up, did what they had to do to completely manipulate him, and then put him to work. But we're talking expert, professional level. And my thought is either government affiliated, but not doing it for the government, or private industry. Sometimes we forget, just like I think may have happened in the Amy Eskridge case, that there's an entire world of corporate espionage, spycraft, and probably wet work going on out there. It happens. So that's my theory. I think he had help. I think whoever did it, whoever helped him, It's very powerful because you have powerful people, including what we refer to as the most powerful man in the world, the President of the United States, saying, don't worry about it. He's dead. There's more important things. Let's move on. But with that attitude, it's bound to happen again. So please, if you have theories, thoughts, questions, concerns, comments about the documentary, I'd love to hear it. Leave your comments down below. Again, don't forget, like and subscribe to the channel. And I'll see you next time on the Gabriel Speaks Podcast. Thanks for tuning in.